Welcome to this deep dive. We cut through the noise to get you the core of what you need to know.
That's the goal.
And today, we are tackling a big one, artificial intelligence and its impact on jobs, specifically in the U.S.
Yeah, we've gone through a bunch of reports, analyses, looking at all the different takes on this.
And let me tell you, they definitely don't all line up. There's a lot of debate.
Exactly. So our mission here is really to pull out the key arguments, the main data points from these sources.
Trying to give you a clear, balanced view of, well, what the experts are actually discussing right now.
We want to get past the headlines, the extreme hype or the extreme fear.
And focus on the real questions. What's
Okay.
actually being debated about AI and American jobs?
And the central tension, it really seems to be, is AI mainly going to create jobs, boost the economy?
Or is it this major threat? A threat to livelihoods, maybe to equality in the U.S.?
The sources we looked at lay out pretty compelling arguments on, frankly, both sides of that line.
Okay. So where should we start unpacking all of this? It's a lot.
Maybe with the positive case first, the optimistic view.
All right. AI is an engine for growth. What's the headline argument there?
Well, one number you see cited quite a bit is from the World Economic Forum. Their 2023 report projected AI could create 97 million new jobs globally.
Yeah, 97 million by 2025.
By 2025, yeah. That's a big number. It grabs your attention.
It absolutely does. And it sort of
Definitely.
echoes history, right? Like, think about past technological shifts. Automation, the internet.
Exactly. They disrupted things, sure, but they also spawned entirely new industries, new types of work. Nobody could have predicted.
But that 97 million figure, it's global.
Right.
How much does that tell us specifically about the U.S. situation? What are the assumptions baked into that?
That's the critical follow-up question. A global number gives you a sense of scale, but the U.S. has its own unique labor market, its own dynamics.
Okay.
But the optimists also argue that AI often doesn't eliminate the entire job. It changes the tasks within the job.
Ah, okay. So it transforms the work rather than just destroying it.
Precisely. The example often used is radiologists. AI might help analyze medical images, maybe do the first pass.
Right.
That lets the human radiologist focus on the more complex diagnoses, maybe spend more time talking with patients. Their role evolves.
So evolution, not elimination. I get that. And we're also seeing AI being talked about as a solution for labor shortages. Right?
Yeah, definitely. In areas like logistics, warehousing, even elder care sectors that are really struggling to find enough workers.
Do the reports give examples of that?
They do. Think about Walmart using inventory bots in warehouses. That frees up human staff for tasks needing, judgment or customer interaction.
Okay.
Or AI being used in hospitals for things like optimizing schedules. That could potentially ease the burden on nurses and doctors.
So addressing real bottlenecks.
Yeah.
But it's not just about plugging in the tech. People need to adapt too. What about training?
That's a huge part of the optimistic argument. Companies investing in reskilling.
Like Amazon, I saw they pledged, what, $1.2 billion?
Yeah, huge pledge, $1.2 billion to retrain 300,000 of their own employees by 2025. And you see other big names too, IBM's Skills Build, Google's career certificates.
Okay, these programs exist, but do they work? Do people actually get better jobs afterwards?
Well, there is some research trying to answer that.
Yeah.
An MIT study, this one from 2024, looked at workers in these company-sponsored AI training programs.
Yeah.
And it found that 62%, pretty solid majority, found better paying jobs within about 18 months of completing the training.
62% finding better pay. That's actually quite encouraging. It suggests these efforts can make a difference.
It does. And it aligns with what some leading figures in AI are saying. Like Fei-Fei Li talks about AI amplifying humans, making us better at our jobs.
Or Sam Altman's Vision AI handles the boring stuff, right? Freeing people up for more creative, more engaging work.
Exactly. And then there's the bigger picture, the macroeconomic view.
Which is?
That countries really embracing AI will just be more competitive. They'll gain an edge. McKinsey estimated AI could add trillions to the global economy by 2030.
Trillions. How much?
The figures vary a bit across reports, but one suggested up to $4.4 trillion. Another even floated $13 trillion annually by 2030.
Wow. That kind of growth, if it happens, you'd assume it has to create jobs somewhere, right? New industries, new demands.
That's the core of the optimistic economic case.
Yeah.
Growth drives opportunity.
Okay, there's definitely a compelling argument there for AI as a positive force for jobs and the economy. But the reports we read weren't all sunshine and roses. There's a definite cautious side, even a worried perspective.
Absolutely. And that view really hones in on the potential for Well, significant job displacement and the risk of making inequality worse.
So what are the headline numbers on that side?
Brookings, in a 2024 analysis, estimated that roughly 25% of all U.S. jobs are highly susceptible to automation.
A quarter of all jobs. Which sectors are most at risk according to them?
They point particularly to transportation, think trucking, delivery, retail, manufacturing, and customer service roles.
Okay, those are big employment sectors. And this idea that everyone displaced will just smoothly transition into a new, equally good job, that doesn't always hold up, does it?
It seems not, based on some of the data. There's another MIT study, the 2023 Labor Adaptation Study. It tracked workers displaced by automation.
What did it find?
It found only about 5% managed to find jobs that paid equally well within 2 years.
Only 5%. Wow.
Yeah, many faced pay cuts or just dropped out of the labor force altogether. It really highlights how tough that transition can be for people.
And it raises a really critical point about who gets hit hardest, doesn't it?
It does. The concern is that blue-collar workers, lower-wage workers, they often have fewer resources, less access to the kind of retraining we just talked about.
So they're potentially more vulnerable to being left behind.
That's the worry. And tied to that is the concern that the benefits of AI might not be shared widely.
How so?
Well, McKinsey's 2024 work suggests that the economic gains could end up concentrated in just a few big tech companies, the ones leading the AI charge.
Which could mean the gap between the winners and everyone else gets wider.
Potentially, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it could also disproportionately affect certain areas, like maybe rural communities or small businesses that can't afford to invest heavily in AI.
It's not just about manufacturing or driving jobs either, is it? The reports mention white-collar roles, too. That might surprise some people.
It might. But Goldman Sachs put out estimates suggesting pretty significant automation potential in fields like law.
Law, how much?
Up to 44% of tasks potentially automatable. Also administrative roles, up to 46%, and even education, maybe up to 30%.
That's substantial. They mentioned specific tools, right? Like Harvey.ai. Could you just quickly explain what that does?
Sure. Harvey.ai is basically an AI assistant for lawyers. It helps with things like legal research, drafting documents, analyzing contracts, tasks that usually take up a lot of lawyer time.
Okay. And do not pay.
Do Not Pay is more consumer-focused. It uses AI to help people with things like fighting parking tickets, claiming airline compensation, canceling subscriptions, sort of automating routine legal processes.
Got it. So you can see how that starts to change the workflow. Even in professions like law or education, where AI might be used for lesson planning or grading assistance.
Exactly. It's shifting tasks there, too.
And beyond the pure job numbers, there are ethical concerns raised in some of these sources, too, right? People like Tristan Harris.
Yes. Concerns about AI being designed primarily for corporate profit, maybe not prioritizing human well-being, and the risks of using algorithms trained on biased data, potentially reinforcing existing inequalities without enough oversight.
That adds another layer of complexity. Okay, so we have these two pretty starkly different narratives. AI, the job creator, AI, the job destroyer, or at least the inequality amplifier.
Yeah.
How do we synthesize this? What's the big takeaway when you put all these reports together?
I think the clearest takeaway is that AI isn't just a passing trend. It's a fundamental, permanent, transformative force acting on the workforce. There's no going back.
It's here.
And the core question that really emerges across all the material is, can we steer this? Can we shape how AI is developed and used so that it actually supports people, supports human dignity?
Or does it just end up making things more unequal, more precarious for a lot of workers?
That seems to be the central challenge posed by the reports.
It really feels like it boils down to societal choices.
Yeah.
The reports themselves kind of embody that debate. You have the optimistic voice saying, let's innovate, let's invest in people, let's make AI our partner.
Right. Embrace the change, manage the transition through things like reskilling.
And then you have the more cautious, sometimes critical voice saying, hang on, we need protections. We need to hold companies accountable. We need to think about fairness first.
And, both perspectives have valid points based on the evidence presented. AI itself, the technology, it's not inherently good or bad for jobs.
Its impact depends on us, on the rules we set, the priorities we have.
Exactly. It'll reflect the values we embed in its deployment and regulation.
Okay, so we've really dug into this core debate. The potential for AI to create opportunity, but also the very real risks of displacement and inequality.
A complex picture.
Definitely not predetermined. It's clear the future of work alongside AI depends massively on what we do next. policies, education, retraining efforts, ethical guidelines.
Oh, crucial pieces of the puzzle.
Which brings us, I think, to a final thought, a question really, for you, the listener.
Yeah, considering everything we've discussed, these potential futures, these arguments.
What specific skills, what areas of knowledge do you think will be the most valuable as AI continues to reshape our world?
And maybe even more importantly, what actions do we need to take as individuals, as a society right now, to make sure we navigate this transformation successfully and, crucially, equitably?
Something to think about.